So here we are, video 3 in this little series, and I want to say a big thank you for watching. Remember, if you've ever had any stress or anxiety or any undealt with traumas in your life and would like instead to feel calmer, more in control and in less pain, you should consider looking at Reiki to help you. To remind you, Reiki is a natural energy healing therapy that anyone is able to do once they've been attuned by a Reiki master, like myself. Or, if you're interested in learning for yourself, then everyone has the potential to benefit from receiving Reiki. And that relates to people and animals too. I've been delivering distance Reiki to people and animals all around the world for a whole host of different purposes since 1999 and have been training other people since 2011 with my special range of Reiki courses. This, for example, has allowed me to help 3 generations of the same family, as gran, mother and daughter have all completed their Reiki training with me, and all 3 report how much calmer, relaxed and stress-free the family is. Now we'll get to our last batch of specific questions and answers in just a moment, but as I mentioned, you can get extra information and even extra help with a special offer. But it's such a special offer, I will only be able to have it available for just a few days. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. The first is, can we give Reiki to people without asking? Well, obviously, if you're face to face with somebody, then it kind of makes sense to just say to them, are you okay if I give you some Reiki? Because you're going to be placing your hands on their body. So that makes sense to kind of ask for that permission. But I think also we need to consider that if you're sending somebody Reiki across a distance, then I've sent Reiki, I've mentioned this just now, that I've been sending distance Reiki to people all around the world for many, many years. And a lot of the times those people who've been receiving the Reiki, they've had Reiki booked by one of their family members, and so not necessarily does that person know that I'm directing and have the intention of sending Reiki to that particular person. But my view is that, although some people might think, well, that's not fair, but my view is that because the Reiki is being sent on a sort of subconscious level, and is received by the person on a subconscious level, then they have the ability on a subconscious level to reject the Reiki if they don't want it. So on that basis, I feel that's perfectly fine to send the Reiki without first having their express permission. So hopefully that answers that question. And then the next question is, does Reiki energy flow through my hands regardless of using any symbols or setting an intention? Well, you're only able to use the Reiki symbols if you've been trained to Reiki level 2 or Reiki master. So if you're a level 1 trained person, then unfortunately the symbols won't work for you because you haven't been trained, or more the point, attuned to Reiki level 2. But if you are, then that's fine. So all you have to do, whether you're level 1 or level 2 or above, is to just have that the intention for the Reiki to work, and that could be on a subliminal level, or you might specifically want to say something, come on, Reiki work, Reiki on, Reiki start, or something of that ilk. But the more you practice giving Reiki, you will find that you don't actually have to formally sort of ask for the Reiki to start. It will just happen. It'll just happen because you have that subconscious intention to give Reiki. So it'll just start. So somebody else has also asked me that Reiki level 1 seems to work perfectly well, so why should I continue and move up to a Reiki level 2 or even a master? So what do the higher levels do that Reiki 1 doesn't do? Well, with Reiki level 2, you have another attunement to Reiki, the level 2 attunement, obviously, really. And on that training, you will learn how to use 3 of the Reiki symbols. The one is the power symbol, and that has the ability to literally power up your Reiki energy by as much as 10 times, by 10x. So that's a good thing for a start, to power up your Reiki energy. Therefore, potentially, you can do more powerful work with it. The other symbol is the emotional symbol. And if you've managed to play my other Reiki question and answer videos in this series, you'll know that I've talked about how, in a lot of cases, my belief is that people who are suffering with physical problems could often have some stress-related issues that is lurking around there, and is causing the physical problems. So therefore, you can use the Reiki symbols, the emotional symbol, to work specifically with lots of other techniques and Reiki, not systems, but I suppose techniques is the best word actually to use, where you can specifically work on people's emotional problems. And so that's something that I teach in my level 2 training. Then the third symbol that you learn how to use is the distance Reiki symbol, which is pretty amazing, because this gives you then the ability to actually send Reiki across any distance to anybody or anything anywhere in the world. So that you can send it to a person or to a human who's in the same room with you, or in the same house, the same street, or they could be in a different country, or anywhere in the world. So that's another powerful thing that you can do with your second degree Reiki. So if you are a Reiki 1 and you want to move on to the next level, then obviously Reiki 2 is the natural choice for you to do. Next question. During the Reiki treatment, how often should you use the symbols? Is it just a couple of times throughout, or every time you change a hand position? Well, I would suggest that when you start a Reiki session, you would activate the symbols in the way that I've taught. And then, if whilst you're giving somebody Reiki, person or an animal, you just feel drawn to want to put an extra bit of power into one part of the body that you're working on, then my suggestion is you just lift your hand and you draw the power symbol at that particular part of the body. But you don't have to draw the symbols every time you change your hand position. The more you do Reiki, the more that anybody does Reiki, the more intuitive you become, and the more you just feel drawn to put your hands in certain parts of the body, and on the same basis you'll feel drawn when you want to draw a symbol. You must also, when you're working on someone's head, again, that's where we hold most of our stress and strain is within our head. So if you're using the emotional symbol around someone's head, that can help to release some of the stresses and strains that person might be experiencing. Okay, where are we with the next question? Let's have a look. A couple of questions about distance Reiki, and that is, how does Reiki work remotely? How can you send somebody Reiki across a distance, and what information might you need? Well, actually, you don't need a great deal of information about that person. What I like to collect from them is their name, and that's like first name and last name, where they're located, which town, which country, which city, whereabouts are they. You don't need their full postal address, just a general idea of their location. And I like to find out what they would like the Reiki for. What's the Reiki? What do they want the Reiki to help benefit with? You don't have to have that, because the Reiki will just ping along. Now we're all, how does it work? Well, we're all linked across the ether. So on that same basis, that's how you send the Reiki to them. So you use the guidance that I show all of my level 2 students, and you form a connection with that kind of person using by using the symbols. And then you just have that intention, you have that intent in your mind that you want for that person's good or that animal's good, for the Reiki to benefit them. And then, boom, you channel the Reiki towards them. And it sounds crazy, I know, it sounds very hard to understand and maybe hard to believe, but it does work. And I've had some amazing feedback from my distance Reiki clients from any part of the world. I'm based in the UK. I send Reiki to all parts of the world, and I get some amazing feedback about people who can actually even feel the energy. They say, wow, I get email back saying, Rob, were you sending Reiki at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning? Because I could actually feel it. I suddenly felt really calm and I felt relaxed. And this is somebody who's, say, in the USA, and I'm in the UK. Are pretty amazing. And you learn to do that on a Reiki level 2. And so the next part of this question about distance Reiki is that can it be applied to all things at all time? Well, yes, it can. It absolutely can. You can send Reiki to help a situation that's happening now. Someone's not feeling well, or someone's stressed, or you can send it to something in the future. So let's say somebody's got an exam coming up in the future. You can send it to that to help that person with the exam. Doesn't mean they're going to pass the exam, because if they haven't done any studying, they're not going to pass it, are they, really? No matter what Reiki's sent to them. But you can kind of help. If that person's going to be stressed in the exam, you can send Reiki forward to that exam to help that person to be calm. And if they're calm, they've got a better chance of answering the questions. As I say, as long as they've done the work in the first place. But you can also send it to all sorts of things. I mean, I've sent distance Reiki to people who are going on a journey, and the journey, is kind of a busy journey, and it's a whole horrible journey. And so I sent the Reiki to that, and the feedback was, well, yeah, the traffic was still massive. There were still tailbacks, but the lady's husband, who was doing the driving, was a lot calmer. So therefore, the journey wasn't the trauma that it has been in the past. That's just one example of many I could give you about how distance Reiki has been used for what I call events or things, as opposed to perhaps an illness or an ailment. Okay, now a couple more animal-related questions that I've been asked. And the first one is, can you use the same Reiki on dogs as humans? Yep, absolutely. Dogs, cats, horses, lots of other animals are made up the same way as us. They're made of skin and bone and muscle and very much similar organs to us. Mostly in the same place, but some slightly different. So yes, the same way that you use different hand positions on a human, you can use them on a whole variety of animals too, and even on little small furry animals where you can't do lots of different hand positions because that just wouldn't be practical. But with them, you could just hold them in your hand. So say, imagine this little mouse here. You could just give Reiki like that. I wouldn't be putting my hand on the mouse because it might be a bit too claustrophobic and a bit too hot for them. Reiki generates Reiki's energy. Energy is often related to heat. And so therefore you wouldn't want to be just putting your hands on and creating too much heat for that poor little mouse that's in your hand. Okay, where are we with the questions? Let's have a look. I own horses. Can I learn how to give them Reiki? Yes, absolutely. As I've just said, in the same way that dogs, cats, horses have a similar body makeup as humans, then absolutely, if you own horses, you are more than able and capable to learn Reiki, so you can offer Reiki to your horses. They're obviously bigger than dogs, unless it's a miniature pony, of course, but they're bigger than dogs, so you just have to slightly adapt how you give your Reiki to them. You might need to give Reiki down one side of the horse Whereas with a smaller dog or a cat, you can actually put hands over the animal and give Reiki to both sides. A bit difficult with a 17 hand high horse. A bit difficult. Are the hand positions for animals the same as for people? Well, I think I've just answered that. More or less they are. More or less they are. Just bear with me one moment. So yeah, more or less they are the same. Okay, so we've time now on this video for just a couple more questions, and the first is, how often should I do Reiki on myself? Now that's a good question, because if you are a giver of Reiki, whether you're a level 1, a level 2 or a master, then you should give yourself Reiki too. And the reason for that is that if you're not in the best place, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you're not feeling quite right, your body's about out of sync, then when you give Reiki to someone or something else, you're going to keep a chunk of it back yourself, because your body says, hey, I need this Reiki. So you should give yourself Reiki on a reasonably often basis, but there's no set rule. If you want to give Reiki to yourself every day, that's absolutely fine. You can't overdose on it. But if you don't, if you want to just give yourself Reiki, once a week, that's absolutely fine. Or a couple of times a week, or once a month even. Whatever you feel is appropriate for your needs and how you are and what your lifestyle is like. I tend to not give myself a full body Reiki session, but I do tend to give Reiki on my head quite a lot. Because again, I want to keep away from stress. I want to keep stress at bay. And we all live stressful lives. I may well be a Reiki master over many years, but I'm still human. So I still have human feelings, human everyday issues to deal with, like everybody else does. So I tend to give myself Reiki on my head on a reasonable regular basis, probably every couple of days, I would say. I don't formalize it, but probably every couple of days. That's what I do. But you don't have to follow that. You can do whatever you feel is appropriate for your needs. Next question. How long does it take to become a Reiki master? Well, obviously, if you haven't done Reiki at all, you've got to go through Reiki level 1, Reiki level 2, and then a Reiki master. Now, I offer all three of those trainings, whether it be a live one-day training course and qualification, because all my courses are qualifications, and they take place in England, which is where I live. But I also have home learning packages of all of those three levels of Reiki, and a lot of them are tailored to have special kind of sections, whether you're interested in dogs, or you're a dog groomer, or horses or cats, or you want to be what I call an animal healer, a Reiki animal healer. And so to answer this question about how long does it take, well, if you're starting out from scratch, then my take is this: do Reiki level 1, practice all the skills, hands-on Reiki skills, practice those skills for, well, only for a short time is necessary, depending on how much you practice. If you only practice once in a blue moon, then I would suggest you wait a fair amount of time before you do your Reiki level 2. But if you are going to harness this and you're going to practice doing hands-on Reiki on yourself, on other people, on animals, and all the people around you, then I think it's okay to take on a Reiki level 2 within just 2 or 3 weeks or so. I'm happy with that. In fact, I did mine that quickly. My level 1 and level 2 was only about 3 weeks apart. I wanted to get on with it and get my training done. As far as Reiki Master is concerned, the third stage, my suggestion there is, because you're going to be learning a whole host of new stuff and new important stuff, I think, and powerful stuff on your Reiki level 2, I suggest you wait around 6 months, 6-month period. Depends on you, of course, but a 6-month period between doing your level 2 and doing your master. And the actual training there is, with me, is You've got two ways of doing it, either attending a live one-day course, as I've said, or to do my home learning package where I carry out a remote attunement to a master level. You receive exactly the same manual that my live students will receive, and then you just work through that. And the important thing is that you've now been attuned and powered up to a Reiki master level, and believe it or not, your Reiki energy could be up to 24 times, 24x that of when you were doing Reiki level 1. So it's pretty powerful stuff. And anybody and everybody, again, has the ability to go on this Reiki journey from Reiki 1, Reiki 2, right through to Reiki Master and a Reiki Master teacher. And then you could be teaching other people to do Reiki just the way that I do. And I will show you all of that in your training. Okay, and the last question in this video is a great one. Do you think medical practitioners within the UK, and the same thing applies to the USA and everywhere else in the world, to be honest, will eventually let Reiki practitioners work alongside them in general medical practices? Great question, and a great objective for us to get to. Now, the good thing is that the medical profession is getting much more open to Reiki and other complementary therapies for that matter. And whether they'll actually work alongside them in a general medical practice might be a bit tricky because of staffing and numbers and so on and so forth. But a lot of people in the medical profession are open to allowing people in who to come and see their patients and work with their patients by using Reiki. And in particular, if you go to, Reiki practitioners are welcomed in many hospitals and hospices and end of life scenarios where they are, perhaps to have more time with the patients to allow them to have Reiki practitioners come and work with them. Fairly recently, I trained and attuned a lady who is a nurse, and she works in not the emergency ward, but in the special, the special intensive care ward. Sorry, the intensive care ward. And she said that what she's going to do is that she's going to use her Reiki to work with her patients, because she will spend as much as a 12-hour work shift just working with one or two and helping one or two critically ill patients, and therefore she's got the time to actually work with them and to help to speed up their recovery process from whatever illness they're suffering with. So I thought that was a great reason for this nurse to come and do my training. Okay, so once again, if you want to move away from all those stresses and strains that are affecting you or affecting your loved ones or your animals, then do please take a good look at bringing Reiki into your life. Just imagine how things could be in a year or 3 years or 10 years if you can move away from those stress-related problems for good. Well, I did say you can get some extra information and even some extra help from me with a really special offer. But it's such a special offer, it will only be around for just a few days. Now, I won't say any more about it just now, but I think you'll want to be in on it. So please do watch your inbox in the next couple of days, and I'll be in touch with all of the details. So I'll see you again soon.